With all the data breaches and cybercrime, it's common knowledge that if you are not paying for the product, you probably are the product. So how do you even trust a product like this? Hi, my name is Rakshita Gupta. I'm a design manager and community host for Design Sundays. This is a short version of the session conducted with Shubhangi where she shares the trust building framework used by LinkedIn. Excited? Let's check it out.
My journey so far has been actually 6 years of engineering, a diploma, and a degree in computer science. Post which I did a master's in visual communication at IIT Bombay. Post that, I worked at Microsoft for around 5 years, where most of my work was around authoring and creation with Microsoft Office, Visio, and PowerPoint, and also design for well-being with Outlook, Cortana, Insights, which is now Microsoft Viva. At LinkedIn, I decided to take the plunge into an org known as Trust, and I work in a design team, and we exclusively design for Trust. Here I work on account access experiences as well as some trust tools that enable users and members to have trusted experience. Besides my day job, I love collecting stuff. All my life I've just been collecting a lot of stuff which my parents thought was crap, and it's been like piling up in my house. So things like feathers and rocks and dried flowers and books. I'm an avid reader as well. I love fashion. I also spent a lot of my college years during design illustrating children's books, and I generally love art and illustration as well. So let's get down to it. So what is design for trust, right? So let's dial back a little bit and look at the environment that we are living in right now. The world is changing. Database breaches, misinformation, surveillance form a major chunk of conversations around tech today. And it's become a very popular knowledge that if you're not paying for a product, you probably are the product, right? So people are hyper aware of and pretty sensitive to their privacy. There are many high profile controversies that companies seek to avoid, and with the growing realization that a trust breach can actually lead to losses in customer acquisition, it can lead to people dropping off the funnel and people stopping to use your product, which is pretty much the worst thing that can happen to us as product companies, right? So there are a lot of terms scattered around when we talk about trust or design for trust. There's safety, ethics, privacy, visibility, responsible design, and all of them tie to the same end goal, I would say. And I hope this talk or the slides that follow help you understand and debunk some of these terms. I love this quote. It says, "A designer is responsible for the work they put into the world." And this is what personally keeps me coming back to my job every single day. I find immense purpose in being a designer and knowing that the work that I put out is seen by millions and millions of users, and it actually influences their day to day and how they feel about things in general.
Are you guys enjoying the video so far? I'm sure you are. If you want to watch similar content, we have a huge list of videos on our channel. Make sure to check them out and hit the subscribe and the bell icon. For now, let's get back to the video.
So the question that we'll answer today is how to weave trust into a product, or how to bake trust into a product. And it is not a patch-up job. It is not something that you finish your product design and then you decide, okay, now I want to weave trust into it, so how do I do it? It actually starts from the very beginning. And I would actually dial back and say it starts from the company. It starts from the leadership. It is not just the onus of the design team to weave trust into the product. It has to be baked into your company's policies, the way they treat customers, and then has to flow into the UI as well. So when a user interacts with a product over a period of time, they form a relationship with the product. The quality of this relationship is defined by how the product behaves during trust-sensitive moments. What are trust-sensitive moments? So we'll come to that. But if you plot a user journey from the moment a user onboards onto your product, keeps using it through and through, and up to the very end, right, through the days and to the end of its life cycle, there might be various emotions that they go through. And the idea is that there are certain moments, for instance, onboarding, which are very trust sensitive, and depending on that and their emotions at that point in time, the trust in your product might be affected. Let's take LinkedIn's example. What are trust sensitive moments on LinkedIn? When we onboard a new user, when we ask a user to provide their data such as email or phone number or credit card number, when a user is job searching on LinkedIn while still employed, when a user updates their profile after a job loss, when a user encounters inappropriate or fake content, fake news, misinformation, when we ask a user to agree or disagree to legal terms. All of these are decisions or emotions that a user faces at different points in time, and it's a great exercise to actually identify these moments and then make sure that we do justice to them as designers. So what does a trust journey look like? It starts right from early interactions where trust is very fragile, all up to repeated successful interactions. So if you're successful in building and maintaining trust, it will go into repeated interactions. And I wanted to add that trust journey actually begins even before the user comes onto your product. So there are different things like brand perception, marketing, that also affect trust. And then when they're actually onboarding, at that point, they're going to be really unsure of your product. So they're going to actually think whether or not to trust it. And different things that they encounter at that point will lead to either a breakage in trust or will lead to growing trust over time. Trust is all about consistency and repeatability. So one bad interaction or one kind of misdemeanor can lead to a loss of trust. If you're successful, then the user at the end actually takes part in the trust process. What does that mean? So it means that a user is actively engaged in trusting and making their interactions trusted, which means that they read the privacy policies, they answer the questions correctly, they also go and figure out whether or not they can use the product, and they also recommend the product to other people. So that's the ideal point to be at. What are some of the other factors that influence trust? And they seem to be simple, but it's actually very important to call out. So usability while using the product is also very important. This is something that we do day in and day out as designers, but having like an overloaded UI that is confusing, that makes people feel confused instead of confident, that can hamper trust. How helpful is your product? And also relevance. So relevance, for instance, if you go to like a feed-based product, what kind of information does it show you? Or if you go to an e-learning product, what kind of videos does it recommend? Do you actually find it useful? Do you find it relevant? So looking at this, you'd see that trust is not just a designer's onus, it is everybody's responsibility. So whether it's the leadership or the AI team or the engineering team or the way the backend is designed, everything will contribute to it in some way or the other. So trust is everyone's responsibility, and as designers, what we can do is start the conversation. We can start questioning our team members, we can start the dialogue around it and take it from there. Now let's go over some of the guidelines that are around building products with trust woven in or baked in. And these guidelines are roughly based on LinkedIn's framework for trust, which I cannot share on this public link right now, but they are also very, very closely linked to it. So we'll be able to see plenty of examples and plenty of guidelines along the way, which will hopefully help us understand this better. So the first one, how to build trusted products. Make the user feel respected, which means no dark patterns and giving users the gift of choice. So what is a dark pattern? I think by now we must have heard the term a few times at least. Dark patterns essentially mean trying to get the user to do something that is better for your company or your business rather than what is better in their interests. It's also like a very sneaky way of tricking the user into doing something. And users are smart, users are savvy. They understand that this is being done. So it's not a great way to win the user's trust. Let's take this example. So this is a shopping website, and I was basically trying to unsubscribe from their emails. And what they did was they actually default selected the highest frequency of the emails. They wouldn't even let me unsubscribe. And also the various frequency of email sending was like in code, right? Like I don't even know what a professional shopper is or what a window shopper is or what a snooze is. So you can see that they were actually trying to make it very jargony and also make it very hidden. This is another example from a very popular app, Urban Company, where they actually automatically add the subscription to your cart, right? So you might have added certain packages to your cart, and by the time you're checking out, something else is being added to your cart, and you don't really know what happens at this point. So not only is it unclear, it is also auto added, and you're not giving the user that choice. And yeah, there is a way to remove it, but as you see, that's definitely not the highlighted part of the screen, right? It takes a while to even understand that something's been added, you're being charged extra, and that you can remove it. Another popular dark pattern across websites, across apps that I've been observing is when you try to exit, they actually try to not let you leave. So on the left, you see this app called Navi, which when I pressed the back button on my mobile, they said, "Are you sure you're closing the app?" And then no is highlighted. So the wrong kind of CTA is highlighted and it does not respect my choice. In the second one, that's the Hirect app. When I press the back button, it says, "Are you serious?" And then it gives me some long piece of copy. And then again, continue is highlighted, exit is not. So I think the moral of the story here is that if you love someone, then let them go. The user says, "I want to leave," just let them leave. If the user says they want to do something, just let them have that control. Another part of making users feel respected is giving them the gift of choice. So again, similar, but I'll have some more examples for this. For instance, LinkedIn earlier used to default select all your contacts to send them invitations to. And it was actually a default opt-in, and you had to actually go and unselect things if you wanted to. So recently they've actually changed that to an opt-in instead of an opt-out. So everything's unselected. And in order to send people connections, you actually have to handpick them at this point. The second example here is that when you're adding a phone number, and this again, many apps do this, right? There's a checkbox for receiving and notifications, which is automatically checked. So that could be a point of consideration whether we want to auto check something or whether we want to leave it to the user's discretion. And especially around places where we collect data, right, like phone numbers or emails, and then do allied things around it, like auto opting you into email subscriptions or offers and stuff like that. I think that's the point to be extra careful, because you're taking something from the user and it's not a good idea to use it for unintended things that the user didn't really sign up for. This is an example from Myntra, where if you've purchased something and you actually try to return it, keeps prompting you to try to exchange it instead, when you're very clear in your head what you want at this point. So it also highlights that CTA and does not respect the user's goals, instead pushes the company's goals on you. This is an example from Cred, where while you're onboarding the app, again, remember the trust journey. So onboarding is a very trust sensitive time and very easy to take the user's trust. So while you're onboarding, it says we take the following permissions, and it gives you two options, and there's no real option except to grant the permissions. So there's a lack of real choice. Also, the way the copy is, right, like we take the permissions, right, it could be more humble, like they were given the following permissions, and the good thing is that they've tried to explain how it helps, which is good. But yeah, and the deny permission is actually again very hidden. Also, the accessibility aspect of this page is quite messed up. I'm not able to read half the things, even as not a visually impaired user, but even someone with slight vision problems may not be able to read all the text, and especially the deny permission, which is like super low contrast. Another thing is, the default opt-in when you add a phone number, very common pattern across apps and websites. This is an example from Twitter, where this is another kind of a dark pattern at play, where it says you're in control. When you want to opt out of ads, it says you're in control. It gives you some text there, and then it basically has options to only keep certain kinds of ads and does not really let you turn them off. So there's a lack of real choice here. So the second set of guideline points are ensure that the user is adequately informed. But it basically means that give the user all of the information, be transparent, and enrich them with that information before they take certain decisions. Let's look at what informed consent means. So there are points in time where you take consents in apps and websites, right? Are you giving them all the information at that point? So this is a simple cookie consent form by LinkedIn, where it gives you all of the information regarding what happens when you consent to this, and what are the consequences, and also you have an option to accept or manage your preferences. This is an example for Airbnb. Again, something that they do well is before you actually request to book something, they give you all of the information. So how can you cancel? And the booking does not happen instantaneously. The host actually has to agree to the booking, right? So it says your reservation won't be confirmed until the host accepts your request, and then thinks about when you will be charged and so on. So it tells you exactly what you need to know and what your action of request to book will entail. The second thing here is transparency, which is very important. So every app, every website, every service or product has privacy policies and guidelines, and they're generally hidden away in the website somewhere. They're difficult to understand, not in user-friendly language. This is a great example where YouTube actually brings it to the front, enlivens it with great illustrations, amazing typography. It will actually make you feel like clicking it, and when you actually visit it, it's very easy to understand. And once you understand these things, it makes you a part of the trust journey, where you're actually figuring it out, like what YouTube is doing with your data, and whether you're okay or not, and you're kind of able to make those decisions. A special note on data and transparency, like what do users want to know? These are three things overall that users want to know. What types of data does the company collect? How does the company use it? And what benefit does the user get? This is an example from Swiggy, where they have like a good amount of information here as to when you enter an OTP or when you're signing up with your phone number, what it would be used for. The third bucket of things is making users feel safe. And safe could be anything. It could mean different things for different apps. So if it is an app that transacts with your money, that is like safety to a next level, right? If it is a dating app, it could mean like feeling secure, feeling private, feeling, not completely out there. It could also mean psychological safety. For instance, for LinkedIn, safety could be around like whether my current employer knows that I'm looking out for the job. So it could mean different things for different products, and you should kind of go back to what you're working on and see what safety means for that. The first one I'll cover here is the the aspect of visibility. So when you actually add a job update on LinkedIn, that is when you sign up that I want to receive updates for a particular job role at a particular location, etc. And when you update your profile, you can actually choose who sees that you're open to work. Is it all LinkedIn members or is it recruiters only? So giving you that granular adjustment right up top, not somewhere deep inside settings, also helps you feel safer and helps you feel more secure. Similarly, for a dating app like Bumble, they've introduced an incognito mode, which again makes you feel safe, which respects your visibility. And there might be cultural aspects to this which are different across the world. So letting users have this option is a really great thing. The second one here is protection from unintended use. So this is an exercise that you can do with your researcher, and it's actually a workshop. You could look it up online. It's called as What Could Go Wrong. So whatever you put out there could be a possibility that somebody might misuse it. For instance, if you're providing like an account access thing like Google, someone might actually be logging in with your details and trying to take over your, or when you're going to a website and entering any sensitive information, it might actually be like a phishing link and someone might actually get hold of your information. So having those checks in place and also letting users know that, hey, we're trying to keep you safe here, and making sure that your information is not used for unintended consequences. The third one is feedback and reporting. Does the user have a way of letting us know when something's not right? So you can actually equate it with kind of just feeling safe in a city, right? Like, are there people that can hold the bad guys accountable? Is there somewhere you can go to complain and so on? For instance, this is LinkedIn's reporting flow. If you see any content that is not appropriate on LinkedIn, that is misinformation, that is harassment, or anything in those lines, you can actually go and report it right on the content itself in the three dots. Can users find help easily? So where do you put your get help button, right? Is it right up there or is it hidden somewhere? Or for a complicated website or like an enterprise product, it could be the guide that is there, the product guide or the FAQs. Where is the link to that? So making sure that you can get help without leaving the page actually helps in providing a safer environment. And basically, making users feel respected, making users feel informed, safe, as well as empowered. So that is actually the framework. And we went into examples for each. And I was actually going to come into what are the metrics for trust, right? And this is a question I get asked often, especially, people love to measure things, right? They love to measure like what is the impact, how does this work, how is it going to help? Sure, okay, I take this dark pattern away, but what's in it for me? And the hard answer is that trust cannot be measured precisely, right? But it might have an impact on your user retention. It might have an impact on your net promoter score or your customer satisfaction as well. Trust also feeds into not just your product but your brand. For instance, your product is a part of a larger brand possibly. So, like one dark pattern inside your product can lead to the trust perception of the whole brand going down. Conversely, people who trust a particular brand also tend to trust the product associated with it, but I think it's like a two-way street where one influences the other. Trust, when done well, results in very loyal customers who keep coming back. It leads to higher engagement, so they're going to spend more time or spend more money or spend more currency on your app. It also leads to brand advocacy, where they might then talk about your brand or your product to their friends, and that's like the best way to actually measure whether someone actually loves a product or not. And I think trust is also deeply embedded in user love, but I would say it cannot be separated out and there's not one exact metric or measurement for it. So the idea here is, what can you do as a designer? And I think people do have that question a lot already. So talk about trust with cross-functional partners. Start using that word. Talk about why it's important. Read up about how you can do it for your product. Identify trust-sensitive moments in your user journey, just as a side project. Look at your entire user journey and see where trust might be affected. Do an audit or a breakdown of the product that you work on and look at, or maybe show it to a friend and have them use it and see where they are like, okay, this doesn't feel right. So that's a good thing to do. Build connections with privacy, security, and legal teams. So a lot of companies have these teams that actually do the work around legal stuff and around regulations, around privacy, and so on. And these teams often don't talk to each other, right? Your design or product team and these teams, but actually their experiences or their information does have a play inside the product, whether it's a privacy policy or whether it is those 3 condensed points that you want to show before getting a person to accept a cookie or accept a condition. So it's good to build connections with these folks and understand from them what they would want the users to know as well. The last one is to pay special attention to copy. It is how your product communicates.
Wow, that was a power pack session. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button to get notified for more such content. If you enjoy knowing about user psychology while making your designs, make sure to check out this playlist on UX laws. You're going to love it. Until then, happy designing.